गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. In our last session, we concluded the discussion on Dhyana Yoga and began the discussion on Jnana Yoga, path of knowledge, path of inquiry. In this Upadesha Saara, Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi has beautifully given the Sara or the essence of all the four paths. The first one, Karma Yoga. The essence of Karma Yoga is Ishwararpitam Nechaya Krutam Chitta Shodakam Mukti Sadakam. So, karma has to be done with Nishkam Bhava, desireless action. And whatever karmas are done with Nishkam Bhava, that has to be surrendered at the feet of the Lord, Ishwararpitam. That will purify the mind. And purified mind is a means for liberation, Mukti Sadakam. That was the essence of Karma Yoga. Then in Bhakti Yoga, the essence is Kaya Vangmana Karyam Uttamam Pujanam Japas Chintanam Yasa. So puja of the Rupa, worship of the Rupa, chanting of the Lord's name, Nama, and Chintanam, contemplation over the Swarupa behind the Rupa, the essence behind the form, the ideal behind the idol, which will end up in, again, non-dual reality. So that was the essence of Bhakti Yoga. Then in Jnana Yoga, beautifully, the essence he got out. Drishyavaritam chittam atmanah chitvadarshanam tattvadarshanam. Drishyavaritam, withdrawal of the mind from the objects. So shifting the focus from the objects of from the mind from the objects to the thought of the objects. And then shifting the focus from thought of the object to the illuminator of the thought of the object. When we withdraw from the object and the thought of the object, what remains is only the knower, the illuminator, which is objectless and thought-free. That is our own Swarupa. And then we briefly got introduced to this Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is the path of inquiry where we get to the root, the essence. So, whether the problem is actually there or we are just imagining it. And then trying to find a solution. First, to investigate whether it actually exists or not. Then only we can speak of solutions. But without investigating that, we straight away start looking for solutions. Some temporary solutions we may get. But then that is not enough. That will work for some time. Again, the problem will manifest. Unless we root out, we eliminate the root cause of the problem. That is the Jnana Yoga. So here, in the inquiry, generally all of us want to have a very quiet mind, not a disturbed mind, a peaceful mind, quiet mind. And then we find different ways of quietening the mind, either through pranayam or through japa sadhana and so on. We may succeed in doing so for some time, but again, it goes back to its old nature. Now, in Jnana Yoga, what they do is that let us inquire about this mind. What is this mind? Whether it really exists or not. What is its nature? And then We eliminate it totally. Instead of solving the problem, we dissolve it. When we discover that it is not there, actually. In the 17th verse, briefly, last session we saw, Manasam tu kim margane krute. So after having inquired, what is this mind? Na eva manasam marge arjavat. There is no such thing as mind. And this is a direct path. There is a directness to the path. Arjavat, straight. So here the topic has changed. Therefore, the word tu is used to change the topic. So now in Jnana Yoga, this is the path of vichara, inquiry. Now, the subject of the inquiry is not the mind, what is Swarupa and things like that. But what is the mind in the first place? Is there any such thing as mind at all? That is what, with Viveka Buddhi, we have to think over, inquire whether there is such thing as mind at all. And then, when we discover that there is no such thing as the mind with Viveka Buddhi, then the problem itself doesn't remain. When the problem is there, we want to find a solution. When there is no problem, there is no need of solution. The simple example is that when a person sees a snake in insufficient light, in twilight, and of course the fear will manifest in the mind and he is desperately looking for a stick or something to beat it. And in the light, he realizes that it is a rope. So instantly the problem of the snake gets dissolved. There is no need to solve the problem of the snake. It gets dissolved. So ignorance is the cause of the manifestation of the snake on the rope. There was no snake at all, but we experienced it in the twilight. We didn't see properly. There was not sufficient light. We thought that it is a snake. The ignorance of the rope appeared as snake, and as soon as the knowledge of the rope dawned, immediately the problem of the snake got dissolved. So it is, ignorance is the root cause of everything. All our sufferings, ignorance is the cause and nothing else. So this problem ends like that. So inquiry is, what is the mind? Whether the mind exists or it doesn't exist. Whether it is Sat or it is Asat. Because if we are experiencing something, it can be either Sat or Asat. So first we need to define what is Sat. Sat and Asat. So definition of Sat is what? From the absolute standpoint, that which exists in all three periods of time, all three states of consciousness, it is not subject to any modification. It is avikari. It is anadi ananta, beginningless and eternal. So, in brief, this is Sat. And what is Asat? Asat is absolutely opposite of that, which is not present in all three planes of consciousness, all three periods of time. It is subject to modification. It is not anadi ananta. It is created in time, born in time, and gets destroyed in time. And that is Asat. So now, mind can't be Sat because it is not present in all the three states of consciousness. So it can't be Sat. It is subject to modification also. Different emotions, they get modified, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, sometimes bad, and so on. It goes on. Different thoughts also, good thoughts, bad thoughts, positive thoughts, negative thoughts, and so on. So it is subject to modification also. It is not there in three planes of consciousness, all three planes of consciousness. So it can't be Sat for sure. But then you can't call it as asat also. Because at this moment in time, I do experience in my mind different kinds of emotions and things like that, and it affects me. So it can't be totally asat also. It is neither sat nor asat. In Vedanta, that which is neither sat nor asat, it calls it as mithya. Mithya, it appears. So mithya doesn't mean that non-existent, but its appearance is because of ignorance only. There is no reality to it. Now we have seen the example of the snake and the rope. So without the substratum of the rope, the appearance of snake is not possible. So if the snake has appeared, there has to be something at its substratum. If the non-existent snake seems to appear, without the substratum of the rope, there cannot be an appearance of the snake. An illusion of snake, for to be there, there has to be the reality of the rope at the substratum. So, sarpa, in a way, the snake is neither sat nor asat. It appears, it is mithya, and therefore it is mithya. The sarpa, without the substratum of the rope, there cannot be the illusion of the snake. So it is because of the rope alone that the appearance of the snake is there, and because of the ignorance of the rope, for us, it appears as a snake because we do not have the knowledge of the rope. So its existence is only because of the ignorance of the rope. The existence of the snake is the ignorance of the rope. And once we know the existence of the rope, the knowledge of the rope is there, then immediately the illusion of the snake will disappear. So, substratum of the rope is the reality. So, other than rope, there is nothing else there. Snake was just an appearance because of our own ignorance of the rope. Therefore, there is no such thing as the mind as such. Its substratum, it appears only because of the ignorance of its substratum, the pure self. So it appears as the mind. So this is what one has to understand very clearly. It is the ignorance that is causing all the problem. Illusion, though unreal, is experienced similarly in the mind also because it manifests with thought, and then it ceases to exist in a thought-free state. As in the deep sleep state, we don't experience the mind. Therefore, the mind is the seen and I am the seer. So any seen object is limited, insentient, jada, and so on. So this is one example that often comes is this ropeless tying and untying. We have taken this example earlier also about a man who was taking his donkeys to the market, and at the nightfall, he thought of resting in the roadside lodge. And when he wanted to tie the donkeys, he had rope enough for only 4 donkeys. The 5th donkey, he didn't have the rope. And then the owner of the lodge told him that just pretend as if you are tying the 5th donkey. It will not go anywhere. Of course, the owner of the donkey was not too sure whether he'll see the 5th donkey in the morning or not. But as soon as he woke up in the morning, first thing he wanted to check out whether the 5th donkey is there or not. And to his surprise, he found he's still there. So he was very happy. He paid to the lodge fellow and then untied the 4 donkeys. And they started moving, but the 5th donkey refused to move. It was not moving. Then the lodge owner again told him, now pretend to untie that donkey. So he pretended as if he's untying it. And then the donkey got up and started moving. This spirituality is all about this ropeless tying and untying. Because of our own ignorance, we feel limited, we feel bound, and so on. It is just the question of knowledge. realization. At this very moment, we are that absolute pure self, nothing less than that. Now, having said that, in the 18th verse, Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi says, Vruttayam swaham vruttimashrita vruttayo mano vityaham manaham vruttayah tu aham vrittim ashritaha vruttayah manah vidvagyaham manah viddhi aham manah. So vruttayah tu aham vrittim ashrita. So this aham vritti, I thought, is dependent on. So thoughts, of course, make the mind. Vruttaya tu aham vrittim ashritaha. This mind depends on the I thought. Without the I thought, there is no mind. So we have to know that vruttayaha manaha viddhi aham manha. So this I thought itself is the mind. So mind is made up of course, the sattvic amsha aspects of the ungrossified Panchamahabhuta or apanchakrut Panchamahabhuta. So, mind is the flow of thoughts, and there are innumerable flow of thoughts because there are so many objects are there, so many thoughts of these objects are there. So, and of course, the modifications of mind, they are also thoughts only: kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, sankalpa, vikalpa, etc., and all those things. So now, without the knower, there cannot be a thought of the object. So first thought that should arise is I thought. I the knower, I the subject, and then the object of whatever thought I may have about whatever object. So first is I thought, then that thought of the object. So all the thoughts can be boiled down to only two types of thoughts: aham vritti and idam vritti. All other thoughts are idam vritti and I thought, aham vritti. So this is a pot, this is the thought of the object. But to whom has this thought arisen? I know this is a pot. So I thought first comes, and then this is a pot, the thought of the object. So without I thought, there cannot be the thought of the object or idam vritti. Without aham vritti, there cannot be idam vritti. So there may be innumerable thoughts, but there is only one aham vritti. I thought, just one. So therefore, it all boils down to this I thought. Idam vritti will keep on changing, but I thought doesn't change. I thought remains the same. So, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says that this aham vritti, now we have to come from the idam vritti towards the aham vritti. So, all the idam vritti is dependent on aham vritti. Now, we have to again inquire into what is the support of ashraya of this aham vritti. All other thoughts are dependent on aham vritti. So, that is the thing. Now, the mind is aham vritti. Here, vrittayah manah viddhi aham manah. So the mind is this aham vritti. So first I am comes, and then all other thoughts will come. Without the knowledge of I, there is no other thought at all. So there cannot be any knowledge of any other thing. Now, in Sushupti Avastha, in the deep sleep state, there is no mind and therefore there are no thoughts also. No I thought. There is no notion of I in the deep sleep state. There is no notion of any what you call objects. There is no even awareness of the body, pranas, indriyas, mind, intellect. They are temporarily absent and there are no thought eruptions. And then absolutely there is no problem there. We don't suffer in the deep sleep state. We do suffer in the waking plane. We do suffer in the dream state also because of bad dreams. But nobody wakes up from the deep sleep state. Sushupti Avastha and says that I was suffering very badly in deep sleep state. No. Everybody will make the same statement. I didn't know anything, but I enjoyed it. Because there is nothing to trouble us. These are all the thoughts that is troubling us. So, we have to understand this aham vritti. Because this aham vritti identifies with the body, mind, intellect equipment and which gives us the notion of karta bhokta, experiencer, the doership notion and the experiencership notion, and because of which we suffer also in this life. So we have to find out what this aham vritti is, which identifies with the body, mind, intellect equipments and gives us so much trouble. What it is all about in the 19th verse. Ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvata aipatatyaham nija vicharanam. Aham ayam kutah bhavati chinvatah aipatati aham nija vicharanam. So, when the inquiry is done from where has this I thought arisen, aham ayam kutah bhavati chinvata, that kind of inquiry is done. And then patati aham, this aham falls off, this I thought falls off, nija vicharanam, by this self-inquiry. So, from 17th verse, we have started this trying to understand the swarup of this mind. Then, when we do this inquiry, the mind ends. So there are innumerable vrittis, and then we come down to two vrittis, and then only to one vritti, aham vritti. And then this also gets destroyed in Atma Swarupa. Now here, aham vritti is called as ahankara. Ahankara is the ego. Ahankar can be pride or arrogance also. I am so and so, I am so and so, and all that thing. People take pride also and arrogance also. I am a minister. I am so and so. I have got so much power. And so on. This is called as ahankara, as is normally taken. Some kind of arrogance, some kind of pride, and so on. But in Vedanta, that which identifies with the body, mind, intellect equipment, and then considering it to be the self and having this karta bhokta bhava, that is called as ahankara. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says call this as ahankara. So from where does this ahankara, this ego arises? So when we inquire from where this ego arises, then even this will get destroyed. Because it is due to the ignorance of the self, the so-called ego seems to arise. If the knowledge of the self is there, self-realization is there, then the ego will not arise. In the absence of that knowledge, because of the ignorance of the self, this ego arises. And when we do the inquiry, then Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi uses this word I. I means it indicates the straightness or easy way, sulabhata, of getting rid of this ahankara. So, the real meaning of this ahankara is not knowing our true self. You see, it is the ignorance only. But when people do not understand, oh, we have to destroy this ego. Destroying the ego is destroying our personality, then what will remain? I identify myself as so and so, and my name is so and so. I've got this qualification, this post, and this position, and this power, and so and thing, and so on. If I destroy this ego, then what will remain? Nothing will remain. There is a fear in most of the people, and therefore they stay away from Vedanta. That will destroy our personality also, everything. So, therefore, people don't take to this Vedanta so easily. There's some kind of fear is there. But actually getting rid of the I, the ego, or even if it is so-called personality, what does it matter? Because once that is out, whatever the sorrow, misery, and pain that we were deriving from the body, sense organs, pranas, and the mind and the intellect, that immediately gets negated. So shouldn't it be something we should be welcoming? That is something good to have. But no, that has to be something desired and not something we should be afraid of. So that is what people think, that my personality will get destroyed and so on and so forth. Here, aham, I, is treated as this, idam vritti. Now we have come from idam vritti to aham vritti. Now, after coming to aham vritti, again this aham vritti is treated as idam vritti. So, and therefore, here Bhagwan uses patati. Patati is the third person singular. So it comes into this idam vritti. He doesn't use patami. Patami is first person singular. So by saying patati, he is referring this aham also as idam. So I patati aham. So patati is the third person singular. Whereas if it was first person singular, aham, I, then it should have been patami. But no, patati aham. So here he uses it as idam vritti only, this aham also. So this I vritti itself is the mind. Therefore, this I thought has to be inquired into. So when we start inquiring, then this I thought will disappear. So this I appears to belong to the chit or the consciousness, as well as it seems to be jada also, chit and jada. But on inquiry, it disappears. It is neither chit nor jada. It was just appearing. I is not the self, but it is the nearest to the self. It is closest indicator of the pure self. From aham and idam to aham, and then the source of this aham, when it is inquired into, then the substrat or the superimposition will drop, and then only the pure aham remains. The pure self remains. So now how many ahams are there? That also needs to be inquired into. Now in the 20th verse, Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi says, अहमिनाश भाज्यहमहंतया स्फुरतिरुत्स्वयं परम पूर्ण सत अहमिनाशया अहमिनाश भाजी अहम अहंतया अहमतया अहमतया स्फुरति हृत्स्वयं परम पूर्ण सत. So now when this ego is inquired into, then it gets destroyed. And then what appears is Parama Purna Sat, supreme, infinite, absolute existence. This is what remains. That is the Atma Swarupa. That is the Shuddha Aham. So that appears or shines forth. Once the ego is destroyed, aham vritti is destroyed, then what shines forth is the pure self. So this self, the pure awareness, is not a thought. It is objectless and thought-free. Whereas there was this I thought, but this is not a thought, this is objectless as well as thought-free. Only because of ignorance, we identified with the body, mind, intellect equipment, and then the doership and in experiencership notion, that itself is the ego. After the dissection of the ego, what remains is the pure self that only shines forth. Now, with the destruction of the ego, one thing we have to know that there is no destruction of the body, mind, and intellect equipment. It is only the identification. The I notion in the body, mind, intellect equipment is only destroyed and not the body, mind, intellect equipment itself. And that is good for us. That is what we want. We don't want any identification with these conditionings called the body, mind, intellect equipment, because of which we suffer. So if that is getting destroyed, well and good. So because of this ego only identified with the body, we suffer so much in life. In a drama, the actors, they play different roles and they have different dresses for the different roles that they play. But while they are performing on the stage, they never forget who they are in reality, not the roles that they are playing at the moment on the stage. So once the drama is over, they come to the green room, change their dress, they get into their normal dress, discard the dress they were wearing to play a particular role, and then they go home. They assume their roles, the real roles, what they are at home. So they don't get carried away by that. Or of course, if you get carried away by that role, most of us get carried away by the roles that we are playing on the stage, and then we suffer. Like the famous example of that person who was acting like taking up the role of Rana Pratap, and then assumed himself to be Rana Pratap. After the drama was over, he refused to discard the dress and then went out, boarded the bus with that fake sword in his hand, marching up and down the bus, claiming himself to be Rana Pratap. And of course, everybody was troubled by him. So then the conductor came up with a solution. He whispered something to the driver, and at the darkness of the night, the thick forest, he announced, Chittorgarh. And our Rana Pratap got off immediately. This is what happens. And then he must be getting around in that thick forest of ignorance. This is what is happening to us also. We are also like Rana Pratap only, moving the thick forest of ignorance, dark forest of ignorance, because of our own foolishness, because of our own ignorance. So, with the destruction of the ego, what remains is the pure self, which is self-illumined. That doesn't mean that that pure self is not there at this very moment. We have to be very clear about it. It is not that once the ego gets destroyed, then the self will appear from somewhere, which is not there now. No, it is always there. Only our awareness of that is not there because of ignorance. So it doesn't come from somewhere else. Sun is always there. Briefly, when the cloud comes, we say, oh, the cloud has covered the sun. No, cloud can never cover the sun. What is the size of the cloud and what is the size of the sun? And in fact, we see the cloud also in the light of the sun alone. In fact, the cloud is covering our eyes, our vision, not the sun. Because it is covering our vision, we can't see the sun. Cloud cannot cover the sun. Ignorance cannot cover pure self. It is only covering our vision, ignorance. We are not having that awareness of that pure self because of ignorance. So, in a manner of saying, we say that, oh, Because of ignorance, we are not aware of the self. It has covered, so to say, it has veiled the pure self. Ignorance has veiled the ignorance cannot veil the pure self. No. It has veiled our vision. That's all. So this Atma, Atma Swarupa, that is always there. And with the ignorance, it is called as ego. We have just taken it for that. So when this ignorance manifests, that is when all our problems will start one by one. With the knowledge, we can get rid of all that. But one thing we have to understand, we should not take this Atma to be Anitya. In case we take this Atma to be Anitya, so Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi makes sure that this is not Anitya. Therefore, he says, Parama Purna Sat, supreme, infinite, and of the nature of pure existence. So that there should be no misconception that maybe this Atma is Anitya. I may realize it, but then in the future I may again forget about it, or again the ignorance may come, something like that. No, it is Parama Purna Sat. Therefore, when the limited, the finite is destroyed or given up, the infinite, we become aware of the infinite. Then there is no fear of anything. So why should there be a fear of giving up the finite for the realization of the infinite? There should be absolutely no fear giving up the finite. It is a good thing. In the next shloka, to understand that, now here, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi speaks of this two aham. One is the finite ego, Shuddha aham, and finite ego. Now, there is a third ego also. So, two egos, and then the supreme, pure self. This finite ego is very selfish. That is Vyashti, individual ego. Then there is a total ego. That is Ishvara. So Vyashti and Samashti, individual and total. And both of them merge into the pure self. But total ego is Niswartha, selfless. Whereas individual ego is Swarthi, selfish. So, now here, another thing we have to understand that Jiva Jagata Ishwar, we have seen many times that they manifest together, they cease to exist together. They don't have independent existence apart from each other. Jiva Jagata Ishwara. Without Jiva, what will the Ishwar do? It is because of Ishwar, Jagat, the Jiva is there. Without Jagat and Ishwar, there is no Jiva. And there, without Jiva and Jagat, there is no Ishwara. There is no need of any Ishwar also. So Jiva, Jagat, Ishwar have to be there together and will disappear together. They manifest together, they disappear together. They don't have independent existence from each other. Now here, individual ego is Jiva, Vyashti. Samashti ego, the total ego is Ishvara. And both merge into the pure ego, pure self, where both merge. And actually, this individual and total, Vyashti and Samashti, Jiva and Ishvara, what is the difference? The difference is only about the Upadhi or the conditioning. That supreme reality or Brahman, with the conditioning of Maya, Upadhi, it is called as Ishvara, and the same pure self, supreme reality, Brahman, with the conditioning of ignorance is called as Jiva. That's all. So due to ignorance, we get identified with these finite conditionings. When ego arises, the destruction of this ego is not the destruction of the body-mind intellect equipment, as we have seen earlier. Only in the destruction of this ego, self is realized. Therefore, one can't attain it without giving up this jiva bhava, without the destruction of this ego. We can't attain that. As we can't experience the waking state remaining in the dream state. If we have to experience the waking plane of consciousness, we have to give up the dream state. We can't experience this waking state while still in the dream state. So, this finite ego has to be given up. Now, in the 21st shloka, Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi says that idamaham padabhikyamanvaham ahamilinake pyalaya sattaya idam aham pada abhivikyam anu aham ahamilinake api alaya sattaya. So now, when this individual aham, idam, this aham pada abhikyam, this I, anu aham, the merger of this individual I, ahamilinake, ahamilinake, when the real I, this total I also, that is the ego, vyashti and samashti, individual and the total, ahamilinake api alaya sattaya. Alaya is the indestructible, indestructible existence, alaya, due to the indestructible nature of the self. So both of them get merged into that. So now, if you have to understand the individual and the total ego, one very good example is the wave, ocean, and water. Wave we can take as the individual ego, ocean as the total ego, and water as the supreme self, the pure self. So the merging of the wave, the individual ego, and the ocean in the water. Water is the only absolute reality. Without water, there is no existence for the ocean or the wave. So the individual wave and the total ocean both get merged in the water alone. So that is the two aham. So from multitudes of thoughts, we have come down to aham vritti, and then the two aham vritti, the individual ego, the total ego, and then merging into the supreme self, the pure self. So this supreme self identified with the individual conditionings or vyashti upadhis jiva and samashti conditioning, total upadhi, total conditioning is Ishvara. Now, without the destruction of this finite ego, with the destruction of the finite ego also, the total ego also merges in the pure self. And with the disappearance of the individual I, the total I also disappears. There is no need for total I again. And the third entity, the pure self alone shines forth. So therefore, with disappearance of Jiva, Ishvara also disappears, and what remains is pure Brahman, the absolute truth. For those who now, this is an important thing, for those who find this path of inquiry difficult, for them Ramana Maharshi recommends the path of Atma Anatma Viveka. So this Atma Anatma Viveka begins with the 22nd shloka. Now it was said in the 19th verse that the ego is destroyed when one inquires into the birthplace, from where it arises. Now the 22nd verse describes how such an inquiry is conducted. 22nd verse. Vigrahendriya pranadhitama nahamekasat tajjadam yasat. Vigraha indriya pranadhitamah na aham ekasat tajjadam hi asat. So I am neither this body, the sense organs, the pranas, the intellect, mind intellect equipment, the ignorance, tama. So na aham. So what I am then? Ekasat. I am that one. And all these other things are tat jadam hi asat. They are all jada, inert and asat. That is non-existent. And I am the one existent. So not this body, indriya, prana, dhi. Now, here begins our revision. When now here Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi has said that we are none of these. Now, saying is one thing, but how to be convinced that we are none of these? When a question is put to us, who are you? We can, of course, never be anything that is external to us. But when this question is put to us about regarding the individual thing, then who are you? Okay. Then the first thing we say is, I am so and so, we give our name. Then the question will say that, look here, I didn't ask your name. Then the question would have been, what is your name? I asked you, who are you? And you are giving me the name. Okay. Then the person may think that maybe it is to do with my profession. Oh, I am an accountant, I am a manager, I am a doctor. Oh, I didn't ask your profession. Then the question would have been, what is your profession? Question remains, who are you? So then when we exhaust different things, we start saying, I am Indian, giving our nationality or race or community. I belong to this region or this caste and things like that. Well, those are not the things. Still asking you, who are you? And then finally we say, okay, you see this body? This is what I am. Now the question arises, are you really the body? So, because I don't know how many of you remember all the 14 reasons. And of course, 15th reason was the homework. And I'm sure nobody has come up with the 15th reason. Okay, no problem. At least if you can revise these 14 reasons, that itself is more than enough. No need of a 15th reason. So then the inquiry begins. Atma Anatma Viveka begins. Whether really this body I am or not. So the first thing is the grossest reason. We start with the first and then we get to the subtlest reason. It is time to revise this. So first thing is that whatever is mine cannot be I, plain and simple. So this is my book. I am not the book. This is my computer. I am not the computer. This is my phone. I am not the phone, and so on. These are my clothes. I am not the clothes. So whatever is mine cannot be I, plain and simple, understood. Now, when we address this upadhi called the body, sense organs, pranas, mind and intellect, we also use the same thing. My leg is paining, my stomach is upset, my eyesight is failing, my mind is disturbed, my intellect is not working. Now, all these we address as mine. My leg, my stomach, my eyesight, my mind, my intellect. So they are all mine. And what is the rule? Whatever is mine cannot be I. Plain and simple. Simple way of understanding. We are now doing the Atma Anatma Viveka. We are investigating into that. Then, of course, we go further. We can't stop it here. So then, if any part of the body is removed or any organ transplanted in others' body, it does not affect my existence. If stomach, spleen, gallbladder, one kidney, one lung, 80% of the intestine, and 75% of the liver, half a brain in case of severe epileptic seizures, and virtually every organ from pelvic area and groin area are removed. Of course, one would not be all comfortable at all, nor healthy, but the body will still survive. People can live relatively normal lives with just half the brain. If the heart is weak, it can be removed and someone else's heart can be transplanted. If blood becomes toxic, then it is completely removed and from the body, and someone else's blood is also transfused. So then I can't be this heart, I can't be this blood also. Which part of this body am I? Without these parts, some of these parts I can still continue. And if one part gets spoiled, if somebody else's is transplanted, I can still continue. So I can't be that part also. So organs taken from one body and transplanted in another body can live for years in that body after the body from which it was taken is dead and cremated or buried, whatever. The human body produces about 25 million new cells each second, and similar cells also are destroyed every moment. Every minute, 50,000 dead skin cells fall off from our body. And about every 27 days, we shed and regrow outer skin cells. We gain a totally new body every 7 years, and this process is going on since birth. So according to medical science, every 7 years, all the cells in all the tissues of our body changes, including that of our bones also, except of course the central nervous system, where the neurons are not replaced. It means that most of the cells that were there at the birth of the body are not there today. But I am very much in existence. So which part of this body I am? So this is the second reason why I can't be this body. Then the third reason, the gross physical body is an abode of trillions of organisms for whom this body is not only their home but also their world. They are born, they live and die in this body itself. Trillions of organisms. They are essential to your health. That is what Professor Ruth Lee says, the director of Department of Microbiome Science at the Max Planck Institute. So she says that your body isn't just you. Nearly every nook and cranny of our body is covered in microscopic creatures. These include bacteria, virus, fungi, and so on. And this Professor Rob Knight from University of California, San Diego, he also told the BBC, you are more microbe than you are human. So which part of this body am I? More than 10,000 varied species of microorganisms live in and on the human body. Many of them, of course, beneficial to human health. Trillions of bacteria live on the skin. A majority of them are, of course, harmless or even helpful. So in the mouth, we have 3 billion germs. About 1 trillion bacteria live on each foot alone. Our digestive system, one of the most essential parts of a human digestive system, is not even human at all. It is the mass quantity of beneficial bacteria. There are about 100 trillion bacteria living in our digestive system. So there are more living organisms on the skin of one human being than there are human beings on earth. With so many organisms, considering this body to be their home, and many of them are born, live and die in the body, so it is also their world. We can hardly call it our own, leave alone claiming it as I. So we have seen these 3 reasons why I cannot be this body. The fourth reason, this body is 100% made up of food and nothing else. Annamaya kosha, food sheath. The seeds in the parents were produced from the food they ate. The fetus is sustained on the food the mother eats. And then the baby is sustained on the milk produced in the mother from the food she ate. And after the baby is weaned from the mother's milk, then again his body is sustained on the food only. So, and this body itself appears as food for other animals. But when I look at the food, I don't have Atma Bhava, I notion in that food. Similarly, if this body is also seen as only food, then there can't be any Atma Bhava in this, I notion in this body. This body is no different than food. And for many animals, this body is food. So then The fifth reason we had come up with was this Jada Chetan Bheda, insentient, sentient difference. The body is inert, insentient, while I am sentient, conscious. So we have seen the examples of gadget cannot function without electricity. Similarly, body, sense organs, mind, intellect, pranas, they cannot function without unless they are enlivened by consciousness. The hand is cut off and separated, it will cease to function. As any gadget when not connected with the electricity, will cease to function. So pieces of iron move when on a piece of paper, if a magnet is held below the piece of paper. And when the magnet is removed, it will remain still. There will be no movement. So in the presence of consciousness, this body appears to be sentient. Without it, the body will remain inert. So in the presence of fire, a cold black iron ball will appear to glow red and is hot. And without fire, it will again remain cold and black. So can there be an association or relationship between sentient and insentient? Or can light and darkness coexist together? No. So being of opposite nature, they can have no possible relationship. So how can I claim myself to be this body, which is inert and insentient? Then in the sixth reason, we have seen the drashta, drishya bheda, the seer-seen difference. So I am the seer and the body is seen. So whatever is seen is jada, yad drishyam tad jadam. Whatever is seen is insentient, inert, jada. So without this consciousness, this body will remain jada, inert. Electrical gadgets can be seen, but not the electricity. The body can be seen, but not that consciousness which enlivens the body. Electricity also can't be seen. Electrical gadgets may get damaged, but nothing happens to electricity. So the body, presence or absence of the body doesn't affect the consciousness. So, yad drishyam tat jadam, yad jadam tat alpam. Whatever is inert, that is finite. Yad jadam tat alpam. And yad alpam tat nashtam. Whatever is finite, that is subject to destruction. So, I am other than the body. I can't be this body. And then, in this body also, there are so many differences, internal differences, swagata bheda, internal differences. So there are many parts and organs in the body which are different to each other, size, shape, and function, but I am the undifferentiated consciousness pervading through every cell of every organ equally throughout the body. I am also aware of even a minor pinprick in any remote part of my body. So, I am other than these parts. Also, expiry time of various parts of the body is also different. So, therefore, organs can be removed and transplanted in one body after death from the other body, taken from one body and transplanted into another body. So, therefore, I simply can't be this body. Then, this gross physical body, which has got this swagata bheda, internal differences, it is subject to modification. I, the consciousness, being one homogeneous, I am not subject to any transformation. I am the same throughout the transformation, modification of the body. I am aware of all the modifications in the body, sense organs, mind, intellect, and so on. Therefore, I cannot be this body. Then, of course, the ninth reason was the principle of reincarnation or rebirth. We have seen many examples of children remembering their past life. And at a very young age, 4, 5 years old, they remember that and they insist on visiting their village and their family and so on. There are scientifically studied cases. And if this child is asked that, are you the body? He will immediately say that I am not, because I just died And I know, I still remember I was so and so, and I was this many years old, and I was suffering from this illness, and then I died, and now I'm having a different body. So I'm sure I'm not the body. So he'll be convinced. There's no question of me being the body. So this principle of reincarnation is also being scientifically studied. It has been proven. There are many books also available, many lives, many masters, same soul, many bodies, and so on, of this Dr. Brian Weiss. So many others are also there. So this principle of reincarnation also proves that I can never be this body. Another thing is that this gross physical body is not available for our experience in the all three planes of consciousness. Then it is only available for us only in the waking plane of consciousness, not in the dream or deep sleep state. In the dream state, we may dream that we are, after having a full meal in the waking plane, we go to sleep and dream that we are starving. That means this gross physical body of the waking plane is not available for our experience in the dream state. Had it been available, we should not be starving then. But no, we are in the dream state and that body is not available for our experience, and therefore we see one character in that dream and we identify with that, and that character is starving, so I am starving. So this is not available in the dream state, and in the deep sleep state also it is not available. That which is available in one plane and not available in other plane cannot be I, because I am available. I am aware of all three planes of consciousness. I am in and through all three planes of consciousness, the waking, dream, and the deep sleep state and beyond. So therefore I can't be this body. Then in the 11th reason, we saw that the body is of course subject to constant change. And if you want to know the change, we have to be outside the field of change to know the change. You can't be the part of change and still know the change. No, it's not possible. The example that I had given earlier was, if you are traveling there are three trains running on parallel tracks in the same direction at the same speed. And if we are sitting in the middle train and we observe the other two trains on both sides, we'll feel as if the other two trains are not moving, because we are also part of the change. But if a person is standing on a bridge who can see all the three trains, he will know very well that all three trains are moving. They are moving in the same direction at the same speed because he is outside the field of change. So we have known the change. I have known the change taking place in the body, the sense organs, right from childhood, teenage, youth, middle age, old age, what changes took place in the body, the sense organs, the pranas, the mind and its contents called the emotions, feelings, and sentiments, the thoughts in my intellect. They have kept on changing as the age changed, as my knowledge changed, my experience changed, everything kept on changing, modifying, and so on. I know everything. So I have to be outside the field of change to know the changes taking place in the body and so on. So I cannot be this body. Then, of course, we have seen this law of physics called as law of conservation of matter, law of conservation of energy. That matter or energy can neither be created nor destroyed, nor is it subject to, it is subject to transformation only. It can be transformed from one form to another. Now, both matter and energy, they are inert, insentient, non-living. There has to be a conscious knower to know the existence and transformation of matter and energy. And if this law of conservation is applicable to this insentient, non-living matter and energy, it should be all the more applicable to the conscious knower. So the body is subject to change. And I know that means I can never be created. There was no time when I was not there. There will be no time when I'll cease to exist. This law of conservation is applied to me. I am also not created and not subject to destruction and not subject to transformation also. Because if I have to know the change, I should not be subject to transformation. Therefore, this constantly changing body is not I. I cannot be that. And then we saw the 13th reason, Jnatna Jnaya Bheda, knower known difference. Knower is always other than the known. Known can never be the knower. So the body is known object, whereas knower is not an object of knowledge. and therefore cannot be known. The light from the torch can, the classic example is the light from the torch can illumine all the objects in the dark room. But the same light cannot illumine the very battery on which the light is functioning, or the light is powered, which powers the light, which powers the bulb in the torch. So same thing. So that is the Jnata Jnaya Bheda. Knower is other than the known. And the 14th reason we saw, the entity whose substratum or the support and the knower or the illuminator are the same, are one, that entity is an illusion. For example, is the dream world. The substratum of the dream world and the illuminator of the dream world is the same pure consciousness, the pure self. And the dream world is an illusion. There is no reality to that. And the substratum is the subtlest of all, and that itself is the illuminator. Therefore, the substratum of the entire existence is that pure self, and the illuminator of the entire existence is also the pure self. In that entire creation, this body is also one of the items in that creation. So, that substratum, the pure self, I the pure self, the illuminator, I the pure self, and this body is also there in that existence. So, these are all illusion. There is no reality to that. It has got only relative reality. So we have seen how the pure self is the subtlest of all, subtler than the solid, liquid, and gas. Solid land, liquid water, the atmospheric gas, and then the space, subtler than the space, because space is also insentient. And the substratum of the space is also that pure self, which is the knower of the existence of all this, and which actually superimpose on that pure self, the substratum, the pure self. And it is also the illuminator. So therefore, by no stretch of imagination can I ever be this body. I am that pure self. Constantly, we have to keep revising these 14 reasons. This itself is enough. Continuously, if we keep on contemplating over this. So, here, Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi talks of that Vigrahendriya Pranam Dhitama, Prana Dhitama, Prana, the pranas, Dhi Buddhi, Tama, ignorance, Na Aham, I am that one pure self, pure existence. And these are the body, Indriya, Prana, Dhitama, they are Jada, inert, and they are Asat, non-existent. Then the next verses we'll see in our next session. So now, if anybody has got any questions, they can ask.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om, yes.
Every time I decide that I'm not going to ask you any question today.
Okay.
But I cannot stop myself.
Yes.
Swamiji, today's session was a brainstorming session. Not the later part of it, but up to the part of inquiry. Say previous shloka. I got little confusion. Bhagwan has mentioned all these things in the as a syllabus for the inquiry. Say. But when I do the sadhana, I come from the object to the thought of the object and then ultimately illuminator. Now I have a confusion here, Swamiji. Because today you said there are three eyes. Then I understand that the illuminator of the thought is the ultimate. that is self or pure consciousness, which is thought free.
Right.
And one cannot say that I am aware of my awareness, which is objectless, but awareness. Not I am the awareness, only awareness.
Only pure awareness. It is
Only.
objectless and thought-free.
Is this supreme? So my question is this supreme reality?
Yes.
Because what you said is knower, ultimate, no, not ultimate, knower and the seer. The- There is an illuminator, the substratum of the knower and the seer. So knower and the seer is not ultimate. It is the substratum of the illuminator. That is supreme reality.
See, the thing is that the substratum and the illuminator are one. This where the knower known and knowing, this triputi merges. That is the pure self. There is neither the knower nor the known. Because known is there in duality only. In non-duality, even known is not there. When known is not there, there is no question of knower and knowing also. Where the triputi ends, there it is the pure self, objectless and thought-free.
And that is supreme reality.
That is supreme reality.
Okay, Swamiji, so during the meditation, fixed in a room, this sounds fine. But the moment you come out of it, this worldly,
then the samsara begins.
That pratibhasik satya is so daunting that you cannot keep the balance.
Like one is a bhakta in the temple, as soon as he's outside the temple, he is no more a bhakta. So prasada buddhi is only in the temple. Outside the temple, there is no prasada buddhi. So that is why spirituality is not a part-time job. It is a full-time 24 hours job. In every thought, every speech, every emotion, every action, it has to manifest. It has to express.
Swamiji,
Yes.
From the moments of meditation, we have graduated to little more time, even when we come out of it. But what you say, it is 24 hours. I don't know. Somehow I find it difficult, and particularly when you are engaged, in the work.
Yes, of course. It is difficult. It is very difficult. It is very, very difficult, but not impossible. Only, as they say that practice makes man perfect. This practice has to come continuously. Even for the small actions also, like washing hands at the wash basin, or even having our meals also, everything, even a small act, insignificant act also, that awareness factor has to be there. While washing hands, at least this awareness can be there. Because I have this body, I have to keep washing my hands. If this body was not there, I would have got freed from washing my hands. Every time. It should go back to the self. If this form is not there, I don't have to wash my hand. This body, the morning we wake up, there was no need to wake up or go to sleep if this body was not there. As soon as we wake up. So that we have to always link it with the self, everything, Atma Vichara. In every small action also, throughout the day, from morning. One day you do this practice. When you have a holiday, when you don't have to do anything, that day you wake up in the morning, and from morning till evening, you keep this awareness. about the self and about your body. And then contemplate and keep thinking about it. If this body was not there, there would have been any need for me to go to the washroom also, to give it a bath also. So I have to wake this body up now and take it to the bathroom to give it a bath. So in every act, however insignificant it may seem to be, we link it with that self, the pure self, continuously. You see? So every action, every thought, every feeling, every sentiment, every word that we speak that comes out, so everything can be linked to that. It is all pure self as the substratum. And this manifestation, because of ignorance, that ego manifested, appears, arisen, and then identified with this. And then I consider this to be myself, and then I suffer like this. What good is that? This unnecessary suffering. I have to withdraw as early as possible, as fast as possible from all this. So that continuous contemplation has to be there. In every action, like if somebody is watching a cinema, say for 1 hour he watches the cinema, and he has to be told that you should be continuously aware of the screen and not get lost in the projection of the light and sound on the screen. Okay? Not even for 1 second, you should lose the awareness of the screen.
Impossible.
So it is difficult. It is very, very difficult to lose the awareness of the screen while he's watching the play of light and sound. But if he does even for 10 minutes, even if on the screen, whatever may be projected on the screen, whether it is tragedy or comedy or romance or action or whatever it may be, he will not get affected by that because of the awareness of the screen. But that is difficult, very difficult, not easy, but it is not impossible. That awareness factor. Otherwise, people watch the movie and then a tragedy movie and then keep crying in the theater and come out with wet kerchief and wet eyes and red eyes and what? Or did you go for a condolence meeting? No, I watched a tragedy movie, but it doesn't seem that you got entertainment. So if the awareness of the screen would have been there, then this would not have happened. But because that awareness is not there, we have been used to that kind of life, taking things for granted. Nobody told us that we are the body. Did anybody tell us that I am the body? No. Nobody told us. But we have assumed it to be I. And now the scriptures, great masters, great teachers, everybody is telling us that you are not the body. That we are not ready to accept. And that which nobody told us, we easily accepted it. I am the body. This is I.
Anyway, thank you very much, Swamiji.
Okay, so shall we conclude?
Yes, Swami.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om.